So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. I would like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can share a few things about Canto 5, especially now we're looking at Chapter 6. And we'd like to seek the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, so that we can enter into the nectar of the Bhagavatam, and in that way also please Shri Radha and Krishna. So, on yesterday we looked at the 5th canto, Rishabdev. Oh yeah, 5th chapter, 5th canto. Rishabdev had just left for traveling the world like Avadut, like this madman, you could say. And people used to tease him and mock him, but he didn't care. He just traveled like that, showing that this don't be too attached in this world to anything. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he was giving the example that don't be attached to anything in this world. And he also came to teach about how to live within household life and practice Varnashram Dharma. But towards the end, he renounced the kingdom and he just traveled around like a madman. So this is a nice verse from the 6th chapter, 18th verse. Let's see if we can recite this one.
Rajampati Guru Malam Bhavatam Yadunam Devam Priya Kulapati Vacha Kinkaro Vaha Astaivam Anga Bhagavan Pachatam Mukundo Muktim Bhagdati Karhichit Smana Bhakti Yogam. Sukhdev Goswami continued, "My dear king, the supreme person Mukunda is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and the Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger of or servant. This means he works just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him."
Beautiful verse. This is towards the end of the chapter, and this is where Sukadev Goswami is actually glorifying Rishabdev to Parikshit Maharaj. And Sukadev Goswami was thinking, Parikshit Maharaj may be feeling a little bit sad because I'm glorifying Rishabdev. But he should understand that Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, was the friend of your dear family, your ancestors. And they were really, Pandavas and the Yadus, they were so close to Krishna. So don't feel so sad that I'm glorifying Rishabdev, but actually you are glorious because you are close to Krishna. So very nice. Let's see what this chapter is all about. Activities of Lord Rishabdev. So Parikshit was very surprised because at the end of that chapter, Sukadev Goswami said to Parikshit that Rishabdev neglected the mystic powers when they approached him. And Parikshit said to Sukadev, how come? How is that? Because the power of mystic yoga is automatic. It comes by the practice of bhakti. And because a yogi, a bhakti yogi, a devotee, has no attachment for fruitive activities, they're burned to ashes. Why does he worry? Let the mystic powers come and use them. So then Sukadev Goswami answered him, yes, you are correct in your assessment that those who practice bhakti yoga, they can use anything for the service of the Lord, even mystic powers if they want to. But those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. They always remain vigilant, watching the mind's actions. So even a devotee who's completely fixed in his Krishna consciousness, He's always careful about the mind. One should not make friends with the mind. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, it will harm the yogi. It says actually it will kill the yogi. So what that means, kill the yogi, means, yes, Naniven.
Yes, Prabhuji. How I could not understand how this question of the mystic yoga appeared in somebody's mind, or Parikshit Maharaj's mind.
Yes.
I could not understand.
What happened at the end of chapter 5, right, I think the last verse, Shukadev Goswami said to Parikshit Maharaj that the mystic yogis, the powers of the mysticism approached Rishabdev, but he ignored them. So Parikshit was very surprised. Why does he ignore him? Because he's the Supreme Lord. He's also engaging in bhakti yoga. And whoever engages in bhakti is already very fixed. So even the mystic powers will not affect him. These mystic powers can really make your ego very high, because these mystic powers are like, you can become smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. They're all siddhis, material powers. So what Sukadeva Goswami said was, the reason Rishabdev rejected the mystic powers was he wanted to demonstrate that this mind, you have to be very careful of the mind. Don't accept anything which the mind says, take it, because the mind can play tricks. And if you let the mind become a friend, then the mind will somehow or other, it will bring you down. You can't restrain the mind which is not controlled. And then Sukadeva Goswami says that the uncontrolled mind will kill the yogi. And he gives two examples. He gives the example of Lord Shiva, and he gives the example of Saubhari Muni. Is that okay, Nariman? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, what I was asking is, how did it come in the picture, the mystic power? Was it at the end of the chapter 5? Something
Yes.
like that?
Yes. Right at the end of the chapter 5. The last verse. I think maybe. Okay, let's just quickly find it, actually, if I can. 1 second. No. Okay, yes, that's right. It's text number 35 of chapter 5.
Okay,
It's the last sentence. It's the very, last two sentences.
Okay.
Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him.
Okay.
Such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. So he rejected the powers.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
No, that's okay. Thank you for asking. It's really good. You're sharp. Thank you so much. Let me just. So I wanted to now. Yes, the two examples he gives. Saubhari Muni. He was engaged in really austere tapasya. He used to be underwater, and something like 10,000 years. And one day, he was like that for 10,000 years underwater, meditating. One day he saw two fish mating. He saw them, and suddenly a desire appeared in his mind to have family, and he fell. So this is the problem with the mind. If you don't restrain the mind, at any moment, the mind can just take one away from one's bhakti or one's Krishna consciousness. Of course, there was a reason for that. Saubhari Muni was actually a little offensive to Garud, the carrier of Vishnu, hence why this fall down took place. But the example is there of the mind. And then the second example was of Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva, he heard about Mohini. He was busy when Mohini appeared. He was drinking the poison. He missed the opportunity to see her. So he asked Lord Krishna, can I have vision of your incarnation as Mohini? And Vishnu said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He said, "Yes." "You may not be able to control yourself." "No, I want to see." So when she appeared, she was so glorious, so beautiful. He couldn't control himself. So again, this is another example that actually Prabhupada also gives about the mind being so powerful. But of course, in Lord Shiva's case, Mohini was none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he can be very much excused. Rishabdev's disappearance. Lord Rishabdev acted as if dull and mad just to teach yogis how to burn up the body. During his wanderings, he entered a forest fire where his body was burnt to ashes. While fire burned up the gross bodies of trees and animals in the forest, Rishabdev burned up their subtle bodies. Thus, they all attained liberation. This is really phenomenal stuff. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's saying, all the creatures in the forest, the trees and the animals, they also got liberation because of Rishabdev. Their bodies were burnt by the fire, but their subtle bodies were burnt by Rishabdev himself. So they attain the spiritual world. So this is the fire in the forest. So then we fast forward to Kali Yuga. And in the future, this is the prediction that it's made in the Bhagavatam. One king, Arhat, heard and imitated Rishabdev and introduced a new system of religion opposed to the Vedas. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, his followers accepted nonsensical principles. In fact, he tried to imitate Rishabdev, and a new system of religion was born, and that is called Jainism. And and my Jayanti also was born into a family of Jains. So, and the Jains, they practice some incredible tapasya, but they have a unusual opinion of God, that he doesn't exist. Some Jains have that opinion, and that the soul will stop existing at some point when it gets nirvana. So it's a little bit of a
Mismatch.
yes, mismatch. Well, let's not criticize anything, but didn't make sense to me anyway. Lord Rishabdev incarnated to deliver the people of the age of Kali. Lord Rishabdev rejected all kinds of yogic perfections which other yogis hanker to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rishabdev? Whoever hears the narration of Lord Rishabdev will vanquish sinful activities, will create complete auspiciousness, and make one attain pure bhakti. So these are the impacts of listening to or hearing or reading the pastimes of Lord Rishabdev. And then concluding the chapter, Sukadev Goswami explains, since devotees bathe themselves in bhakti, they do not care for liberation. The Lord may easily give liberation. This is the point. If one wants liberation from this world, no problem. Krishna will give it. But very rarely will he give pure bhakti. Because when one gets bhakti, then one actually controls the Supreme Lord by that bhakti. So he won't give that bhakti very easily. He'll only give if he completely trusts. We won't misuse the power of pure bhakti. Out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rishabdev taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. And then this is the point about how Shukadev Goswami very nicely reassures Parikshit Maharaj. Lord Krishna is the maintainer, spiritual master, the worshipable deity, the friend, the director of both the Pandavas and the Yadus. But of course, he's also hinting, especially later, Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. the Yadus, he was not that affectionate to them in the sense that they treated him like a king and he treated them more or less like servants. But the Pandavas, he treated them like friends. Krishna and Arjun were the best of friends. Thus he gave the highest prema, highest love to the Pandavas. He does not give inferior liberation to pure devotees. This is fascinating stuff. Any questions? Any questions on that? Chapter 6.
Sorry,
Yes, amen.
what does it mean that he does not give inferior liberation to pure devotees?
Oh.
Everyone he gives a liberation, isn't it? So
Yeah. It basically means liberation is
Yeah.
inferior. It's not considered to be
Topmost.
the topmost. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. The topmost is pure bhakti, where you are associating with the devotees and the Lord in Golok Vrindavan. That is the best. Liberation can just mean freedom from this world. You can be even in the Brahma Jyoti, you can be in Vaikuntha, you can be somewhere where, there's no activity as such. You're just enjoying something, but it's not as pleasurable as being with the Lord himself and his devotees.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Naniman. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? This is not easy to understand because a lot of people think moksha, liberation, is the ultimate aim of life. It's not.
Hare Bol Nabi, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna to everyone. The Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. It's actually quite interesting, this aspect, because it reveals a lot of intricate kind of desire that the yogis may have, the jnanis may have, and even devotees who are quite advanced. They like you said, the liberation here. But I was reading this part of the Bhagavatam in the purport where Prabhupada actually says about yogis, how the siddhis that are described and they call like Lagima Siddhi, Anima, and Prapti Siddhi, and all these different siddhis. But there's one where I was actually listening to a life story of one devotee called Narayan Das or something, and he lived near Naimisharanya, and he took initiation right at the very old age of 60, but he was always inclined towards serving the sadhus, and he was very wealthy, he had a lot of land, and he actually was encouraged, why didn't you take initiation? He said, no, at the right time, I'll take initiation from the right person. So then he thought he'll take initiation from some old sadhu he came across. But that sadhu, at that time, there was a disease, and that sadhu had some sort of siddhis, and he was quite involved in bhajan and all that, but he actually asked Narayan Das, he said, do you know somebody who may have died recently? So what do you mean? He said, well, there was this disease at that time. So there was somebody who may not have been cremated, but has been buried. And he was about 22-year-old young person who may have died and all that. So he actually asked about that person. And then I was listening to this and I thought, this is crazy, Can it actually be true? So what he did was he actually gave up his old body and took over this dead body of a 22-year-old and transferred himself, and he walked off and he said, I'll carry on with my bhajans this way now. So Narayan Maharaj said, how can I be encouraged of taking initiation from this sort of person, yogi, And when I was reading Srila Prabhupada's purport here, and Prabhupada is actually saying that one cannot estimate the speed of mind, from within the second, the mind can go millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter into the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter into a young body and act as he pleases. And being the plenary expansion Lord Vasudeva could have done these sort of things as well, but he ignored all these sort of things, you know. And when I was listening to that Katha, this is Narayan Das, obviously he later on, he didn't accept this kind of sadhus, you know, and he did take initiation from a Vaishnav sadhu, you know, and but at very ripe old age of about 60 or so, you know, he took initiation and carried on with his bhakti. But this sort of yogic siddhis like prapti siddhi and getting into a body and might seem very amazing. I mean, like, you know, impossible for us, you know, in this Kali Yuga, obviously it's very difficult, but up in the mountains, you know, so many yogis can do this. And also about liberation, that, you know, there are some devotees who maybe offered liberation to go to Vaikuntha and all that, but sometimes they don't want, they just want an association of devotees. They just want to be in a place where they can have seeing the glories of Krishna. There's more rasa and enjoy the rasa in relationship with Krishna like that. So I think we're understanding these different aspects of bhakti, and isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. That was actually very, very instructive, actually. Thank you for that. Very good. Very good. Because it's a practical application of what is Prabhupada's written. So thank you for that. Really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so chapter 7. Yatrashrama padani apyotyo
Chakranadi Namasarit Pravara Sarvata Pavitri Karoti. In Pulaha Ashram is the Gandhiki River, which is the best of all rivers. The Shaligram Shila, the marble pebbles, purify all those places. On each and every marble pebble, up and down, circles like navels are visible.
Oh, yes, the Gandhaki River, very beautiful. I should have put some slides up for Gandhaki. Anyway, never mind. So, this chapter, it talks about the eldest son of King Rishabhdev, and that is Bharat, Maharaj Bharat. His devotion was amazing. He was a topmost devotee. Following the orders of his father, who had already decided to install him on the throne, he ruled the entire globe. He married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishwarup, and begot 5 sons with her. Since his reign, the planet has been named after him. He was very affectionate to his citizens and engaged them in occupational duties, Varnashram Dharma, just like his father. Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharat expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. This is really interesting because many people worship the devatas, thinking that the devatas are independent of the Supreme Lord, but actually not. They're part of the Supreme Lord. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eye. So in this way, when one worships the demigods, one is worshipping actually the Supreme Lord, but one is doing it ignorantly. And usually one is doing it for some material benefit from the demigods, to get something from them. And they will provide it. But actually, it's originally provided to them by the Supreme Lord. And that's why demigod worship is not recommended. Because when we worship the demigods, their fruits are temporary and limited. But when one worships the Supreme Lord, then one enters into a different realm, the spiritual realm, where everything is unlimited. Thus, Maharaj Bharat considered that the oblations offered to different demigods were actually offered onto the different limbs of Lord Vasudeva. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. Bharat attains bhava. After enjoying the kingdom for 10 million years, he had a long rule of the kingdom. He left home, went to Haridwar. In Pula's ashram is the Gandaki river, where lived Shalagram Shila. And that was the verse we read, the Shalagram Shila. By worshipping the Lord, his heart was completely uncontaminated, and all his material desires vanished. And he manifested ecstatic symptoms. So he was on his way back to Godhead. So we've seen this tree before. This is the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed. We have planted the seed of bhakti into our hearts. Now we're watering the seed. First comes Shraddha, faith. Then we associate with devotees and we get good guidance. Then we do bhajana kriya, where we restrain ourselves, follow the rules and the regulations. And from that comes anartha nivritti. We get rid of all the dirtiness in our hearts. And then we progress to nishtha. Nishtha becomes steady, fixed in God consciousness. And then we get a taste, ruchi, a taste for bhajan. If we can't chant our rounds, like Sitavaram was saying, we don't feel right, something's wrong. From ruchi comes ashakti, attachment, deep attachment. Oh, I've missed out the last one. From attachment comes bhava. Bhava is very close to prema. Bhava is spontaneous love, but not as deep, as complete as prema. He was at this level. From all the way here, he'd reached bhava, deep attachment to the Supreme Lord. So he was very close to attaining perfection. Okay, so what happened? Chapter 8. We're not going to read this verse. It's a tough one, this one. But we can read the English.
Sukdev Goswami continued, "My dear king, in this way Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruity results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks in the path of spiritual life? How could he show such uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to a venomous snake that enters the hole created by a mouse situated itself before him."
So, sorry, did anybody have any questions for the previous chapter? Sorry, I forgot to ask. Chapter 7. Okay. So, this is a phenomenal verse. This chapter is entitled A Description of the Character of Bharat Maharaj. So what happened? He was close to Prema, Krishna Prema. One day, Bharat Maharaj, after finishing his morning duties, sat on the banks of the Gandaki river when a thirsty pregnant deer, mother deer, came to drink water. But when a lion roared, She became frightened and she jumped over the river. As she jumped, a baby deer fell from her womb into the flowing river. The mother doe fell into a cave and died. With compassion, Bharat rescued the deer and brought it to his home. So, he was very compassionate, very kind. There's an important lesson to learn here, that our compassion should raise others from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Otherwise, it can spoil our own spiritual development. So sometimes we like to help somebody, but if we help them on a material platform, that's not good enough, and it may even divert us from the spiritual platform, like it did with Maharaj Bharat. We have to be very mindful of how we act. Even we are thinking, hey, I'm gonna do something nice for this person. Let it be on the spiritual platform, yes. Otherwise, we take a risk. So there he is. He's rescued the baby deer. Bharat becomes attached to the deer due to misplaced compassion. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules and regulations for advancement of spiritual life. Bharat was thinking due to misplaced compassion. Dear, so sweet, yeah. Since this deer, yes, Naniven. Since the deer has taken shelter of me, how can I neglect it? So this was his thinking, which on a material platform is absolutely fine. But it's not on the spiritual platform, because it took him away from his spiritual consciousness. Thus, he protected the deer to the neglect of his spiritual life. He always kept the deer near him, wherever he went, sometimes carrying it on his shoulders. In this way, his spiritual life was forgotten. Bharat forgot that it was impossible for him to elevate a deer, being an animal, to spiritual consciousness. Sometimes one can give shelter to others, but if we can, like when you have children, you're giving shelter to them. But the idea, like we were talking yesterday, as Rishabdev was preaching to his sons, if one is a father or a guru or a mother or a demigod, then one has to elevate one's dependence to the spiritual platform. But you can't do that with an animal. Just can't do that. So there you go. That deer is growing. And Maharaj Bharat, his focus is on the deer and not on the bhakti. And he's getting more and more and more attached to the deer. He laments when the deer is away from him. If Bharat could not see the deer, his mind would be agitated. He would be filled with anxiety and lament in separation. When will I again see my deer? Maybe a tiger has eaten it. Thinking that he has neglected the deer, he would speak like a madman. You want to say this?
The deer has put its faith in me, just as a good man who has a natural interest in good behavior forgets the misbehavior of a cunning friend and puts his faith in him. Although I have proved faithless, will this deer return and place its faith in me?
This is not talk of a spiritualist. So what happened to him? Remember, it was knocking on the door of the spiritual world, but his consciousness has completely changed. In this way, Bharat, due to his previous karma, so this can only be due to previous karma. Something's happened in the past to make this happen. He was overwhelmed by uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in the form of a deer. Thus he fell down from his spiritual activities. At the time of his death, he saw the deer sitting next to him, lamenting. Thus Bharat became a deer. as he reached the stage of bhava, but became over addicted to the deer, neglecting his spiritual life. To immediately rectify his mistake, the Lord gave him a punishment for a short time in order to increase his desire for mature bhakti. So he'd reached bhava. Krishna was not going to abandon his devotee, even though his devotee had abandoned spiritual life. Krishna will never abandon his devotee. He gave him a short, sharp shock. And the proof is this. The proof that Krishna protected his devotee by giving him this heavy lesson for a short time was Bharat could remember his past life. So in the deer's body, the deer could remember his past life as Bharat Maharaj. And he was lamenting, I missed such an opportunity to become fully God conscious. So he was anxious to get out of the deer's body. It intensified his bhakti. Even as a deer, his bhakti knew no bounds. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then, after leaving the body of the deer, he received the body of a Brahmin in his next life. And again, he could remember his 2 previous lives. So this is the proof that the Lord never abandons his devotee. Even as a deer, he became completely detached from all material things at the ashram of Pulatsya and Pulaha. He gave up his deer body at that time. So he went back to Shaligram, the Gandaki river, and he was staying nearby devotees, Pulatsya and Pulaha. So this is Bharat Maharaj. So if we remember, it says this in the Gita, it says in the Bhagavatam several times, whatever we remember at the end of our life, we're going to achieve it. He looked at the deer and he died, and he got the body of a deer. But because he was so close to Prema, Krishna allowed him to remember his previous life. So that's the end of chapter 8. Any questions, any comments? Very instructive stuff in here.
Yes, Prabhuji. Definitely.
Excuse me, Prabhu.
Oh.
No, Naliban, you go.
Yeah, definitely very instructive, and it just shows that even if the mind is such a fickle state that we can fall down at any time. So what to think about people like Bharat Maharaj fell down? What about materialistic people like us?
What chance have we got?
And there was also something that you should not get too attached to the material life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that will distract you from the spiritual life. But we are trying it. It is very hard, isn't it?
It is.
So much distraction is around us. So we have to think, instead of mind, we have to think about intelligence and control the mind that way.
Very good.
Yeah, you made a very good point. I was listening to a lecture this morning, and again, it was saying, we have to, how do we control the mind? Only through intelligence. We have to get, super intelligence, really. And how do we do that? Through knowledge, through reading.
Yes.
And not reading comics. Reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. It is difficult in this age, Mataji, and this is why in this age, in age of Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us a very powerful, very effective way of transcending this crazy mind of ours, by chanting. And the chanting, that's why our chanting has to be good. If our chanting is not good, then we're just going to struggle.
I think we should be chanting whole day. We should be chanting any opportunity, chanting, remembering. That's the only way out. But what I'm thinking is, Prabhuji, yes, we can do that. But what about with the 3 modes, when we are overtaken by the mode of the passion and ignorance, when we can't think rationally? That
Yeah, those times do come often as well, unfortunately.
Yes, yes. This is my worry. I mean, it's when mode of goodness, you're doing everything, but then
Yeah.
passion takes over. When you and more 90% patient ignorance takes over. Goodness may be only 5 to 10%. And
Yeah.
that you can't think rational, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes you have to tolerate the urges of the mind and just go with that flow, and then you know the mind's going to come back again to goodness, but you have to ride out sometimes the rough time. Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some people, what they do is they have, like, say, Prabhupada chanting all day, you know, in the background. So at least, okay, they're watching, say, TV or something, but, you know, you from time to time, they will still hear Prabhupada chanting, and that will have little effect on them, on the consciousness as well.
That's a very good idea, actually.
Mm.
Yeah. It reminds us to go back into the mode of goodness. Yeah.
It's true.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Daniben. Riansh, you have a doubt?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, go for it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a doubt that he is that Bharat Maharaj who saw that they and kept with him, or another Bharat Maharaj?
No, it's the same one. It's the same Bharat Maharaj. There's only one.
No, hang on. Finish your question. So are you saying, was it a different Bharat Maharaj from that who was in the forest?
Yes, Prabhuji.
No. Why? It's a continuous story, remember? So what happened?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I heard somewhere that Bharat Maharaja.
Yeah,
Bharat Maharaja's there.
Yeah, there is another one, but he came just before the Pandavas in the lineage of Shantanu. Sorry, Shantanu was one of his ancestors. But that's a different Bharat. That's a different Bharat. This one is one of the sons of Rishabdev. And he almost reached Godhead, but fell because he became attached to a deer. So we have to be very careful, Rianj. Very careful.
There are other Bharat Maharaj also, like Lord Rama's brother who keeps slippers at night.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, good point. So Pitambar, plus he's saying, plus look at the way people are constantly watching TV, yes, and on the phone practically all day. Exactly. Where is the one's consciousness? If you're watching the TV, where is one's consciousness? It's definitely materially minded. That's painful. So Geeta's made a nice comment. I like to listen to Krishna bhajans and afternoon Zoom sessions while I work and cook, etc. Yeah, great. And Kaushalya, we can control the wind. Well, Arjun said that. I can control the wind, he said, but not the mind. It's very hard to control the mind. Yes, it is. But Krishna gave Arjun an answer. Does anybody know what answer Krishna gave to Arjun when Arjun said to Krishna in the 6th chapter, I cannot control the mind. What you're telling me is impossible to do. It's easier for me to control the wind than to control the mind. But then what did Krishna say to him? Does anybody remember?
Yeah, I think he said, easy to control the mind with the practice.
Practice, that's right. And two things, he said.
Chanting.
Yes.
Mild is best friend, one who conquered. Otherwise, mild is enemy.
But how did Krishna say to Arjun, you can by practice?
Krishna.
Sorry?
Surrender to Krishna.
Yes, that's definitely there. But Krishna said something specific, which is again very important for us to understand. So practice.
Devotional service, Prabhuji.
No, practice definitely, practicing devotional service, practicing chanting.
The determination.
D is there. Not quite determination, but determination is definitely part of it.
Devotion?
No.
No.
Anybody else? Any takers? I think it's chapter 6, text 49.
Is that man mana man bhakto?
No, no, that wasn't.
That was in chapter 9.
Yeah,
That is my
Without
mind,
desires.
actually,
Fix your
said,
mind.
yeah, he said practice, and he said detachment. So if this is the whole point about, if we're attached, our mind's going to focus on something that we are about to lose or about to get. But if we are detached, then it's much easier to control the mind. Yes, without desires, that's correct. Detachment means without desires. Yes. Attachment starts the drama. Absolutely right, Pritamba. Yeah. So if we get those two things right, practice, the mind will go. Kaushalya, the mind will go, but bring it back. Keep bringing it back. That's called practice. And detachment means don't worry too much about the children. Don't worry too much about, material wealth or material friends, because that's all going to disappear. Let's worry. Let's get attached to Krishna. That's what's going to help us.
There is a, Prabhuji, there's some
Prabhuji, 15th chapter, 2nd verse.
Yes, good detachment. Yes.
Yes, it says that do not get, what was I going to say? Don't get even something on the attachment, which it says in this chapter, which was, I think, very profound. But if I remember it, I will tell.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. Yes, Pitamba is saying actually Krishna says a lot about detachment in the Gita. That's right. And Pitamba's done some really good stuff, actually. Very good. Okay. Anybody else? So let's go to the lessons, unless there's any questions or any comments.
Prabhuji, there's one, I know that Bharat Maharaj was very much attached to the deer. And although he would so advance in his bhakti, he still got attached to the deer. And you couldn't elevate the deer to the spiritual life. Rather, he came down to the level of a deer. But there are examples when there are certain devotees who've been able to elevate, like Lord Chaitanya when he's in the forest, the animals and chanting, and they see differently or something. So
his attachment wasn't for the spiritual advancement. Like Chaitanya was in the forest, and you're absolutely right. He would get the tigers and the lions to chant Hare Krishna. But he was never attached to those animals. If there was any feeling towards them, it was to elevate them in Krishna consciousness. Whereas Bharat Maharaj, there wasn't even an attempt to give that deer any spiritual consciousness. And you can't anyway. How can you do that? Chaitanya can do it because he's Krishna himself. But Bharat Maharaj didn't have that power. So his relationship with the deer was completely material. That was the problem. There
is an incident going back in Mughals' time. There was a great devotee called Shyam Charan Das. He was very powerful. I mean, there is a lineage to this day. There is an ashrams in Bharat and in Delhi, but I don't want to go into his pastimes now or anything, but there was an incident when he was in his ashram with lots and lots of his disciples and all that. And then suddenly an elephant came in that area and tried to get into the ashram. And everybody was just panicked and they ran away and ran around and all that. But the elephant came without disturbing or destroying anything around the plants, the trees or anything, came And Shyamcharan just said, no, don't worry, don't panic, let him just come. And the elephant just came and kind of, touched the lotus feet of this Shyamcharan, because he was quite an elevated devotee. Going into his pastimes is a bit difficult. But the elephant came like as if he was paying respects and bowing down. And then Shyamcharan said, yeah, he has come to a very late stage in his life from his previous lifetimes. He's had so much bhakti and he's going to pass away. And within a few weeks, the elephant then passed away. And amazingly, he said that he actually was at a very advanced stage in his bhakti, but he had an elephant body, but he just recognized the Shyamcharan. He wanted to just come and touch the lotus feet with his trunk. Amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, Prabhuji. Can I say what I remember?
Yes.
Yes. It says that you can't help anybody in this material life. There's nothing you can do to help people in this material life. You want to help them spiritually by Krishna consciousness. But those people who build up all this, like things like inpatient, like hospitals and other things, but they are in ways they are helping, even though they may be doing after the patient, but this patient in the goodness, isn't it? They are helping and building hospitals or building nursing homes for the people, or rest homes for the people, some old age hermitages for the people, but people find them helpful. So
True.
even maybe doing after patient, it's something good that you are doing, isn't it? So goodness is patient.
It is, but ultimately, it's still not going to help anybody. It's like, because you haven't helped that person come out of this world, you're still helping that person to stay in this world.
Yeah.
I think that's the point that's being made here.
Yes.
If you can't help, and the problem with helping somebody on the material platform is our ego goes up. And, like, oh, I built a hospital, I've done this, I've done that. And unfortunately, the false ego sort of increases, that I've done so much great work, and pride develops. From pride, you get arrogance, and then you just go down the wrong route, from a material consciousness point of view.
I think the important thing is not delivering people in the cycle of birth and the death.
Yes, that's the fundamental point. Right? Because you're helping them still stay in this world, but the whole idea is to help somebody. How do you help somebody? Isn't it that saying that you can feed somebody, like bread one day, but if you show them how to cook it or make it, they'll feed themselves for the whole of their life. So if you help somebody with food or water or clothing, you're helping them for a little while, but you're not helping them get themselves released from this world. Whereas, go on.
What about building like an ashram-like thing?
Yes.
Like, and doing bhakti, doing everything, but including your bhakti at that time in that place as well.
Fantastic. Building an ashram where it's Krishna consciousness is delivered, that would be counted as very, very good Krishna conscious activity.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really, really good. Building home for the elderly.
Yes.
And then you care for them, especially in a holy place like Vrindavan. Yeah, that would be first class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
I think we'll have to organize ISKCON, old people's homes, and we can have kirtan and everything.
Well, we're going to do it through London Institute of Vedic Education. So Don't worry about ISKCON too much.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the lessons. Indra Kamaji?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Nani Bayan has a good point, but then we are just helping the material body, not the soul.
Yeah.
If you build hospital and school and all. It's just for the material body, right? And also these Bharat Maharaj, he got a good lesson from his fall down. He remembered in the second life, and then he made sure that he went to the ashram back, and he did not do anything wrong. Even when he became like Jar Bharat also, he did the same thing because he remembered. Similarly, when King Indradumya got the body of Gajendra, with the body of the elephant, the Lord took him to Golok. So this is a good lesson that they got from fall down.
That's right. And this was the mercy of the Lord.
Yes.
This is the proof. This is what we're saying here. The proof that God was protecting his devotee was that he allowed him to remember his past life. And that's why he became so intense in his bhakti. And then we'll see tomorrow how intense he was. So
I like what Srila Prabhupada says in this purport here, that Prabhupada writes that, it is with this conviction that we declare in our Back to Godhead magazine that devotees like the Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit some sinful activity are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, tortoises in that holy land. Thus they take on these lower forms of life for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is not only for the short period, and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. This is from Srila Prabhupada's purport. So obviously when he writes in the Back to Godhead magazines, comments that people might kind of question, but Prabhupada is clarifying here that, an opportunity or two chances given to rectify.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Indilekamaji, you want to go through the lessons?
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, Canto Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Lesson from Canto 5, Chapter 1. Due to the karmas, all living entities get different types of bodies for birth, death, and other activities, which cannot be avoided. Where is 2 and 3, please?
Oh, oops, they disappeared.
Okay, thank you. Chapter 2, to avoid the trap of Maya, we must beware of the flowery and flattery words of others. Chapter 3, the Lord is so affectionate toward his devotees that he is satisfied even when they offer him a little water with a tulsi leaf. Chapter 4, whenever we perform sacrifices and offer prayers to the Lord, we need to do so through qualified brahmanas. And chapter 5, this human form of life is very rare. We must utilize it in the service of the Lord so that we can come out of the circle of birth and death. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Vaji. And then Madhusudan Babu.
Haribol, yeah. Okay, chapter 6, the instructions, and obviously there's a lot of instructions regarding the mind and controlling the mind or focusing on bhakti thing, but at least some instruction from where King Arhat imitated Lord Rasubdev and concocted religious systems which are opposed to Vedic principles. So we should be aware of this tendency in this age of Kali Yuga and not concoct or at least fall for such religious systems. So we're fortunate we're studying the Bhagavatam and understand the Vedic principles. And if you look at the history of Sanatana Dharma, there has always been an attempt made to kind of, destroy it or oppose it in many, many ways, As following the examples of King Bharat's worship of Krishna at the Pulaha ashram, Srila Prabhupada explains that it's stated in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prachati. So worship of the Lord is not at all expensive. I think that's quite an important point. one can offer, Lord, a leaf, a flower, a little fruit, some water, and that's what Bharat was doing at the Gandhika River, just offering whatever he could find, fruit and all that. The Supreme Lord accepts these offerings when they are offered with love and devotion. In this way, one can become freed from material desires. One may not be able to go to Pulaha Ashram, but wherever one is, one can happily render devotional service to the Lord by adopting the process mentioned above. So wherever we are, even in this lockdown, at home and all that, if we just chant, think of Krishna, offer just simple, tulsi leaves or flowers or fruit, that is still with love and devotion. That's bhakti, And just like great King Bharat Maharaj in the body of a deer, who was now very careful not to fall victim to bad association. So we should seek association of devotees and cultivate Krishna consciousness. So watch and guard of ourselves, not be a victim to bad associations. So these are quite powerful instructions coming from these chapters, examples. So thank you, Haribol.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So